Hey everyone, Julie Caraccio. We had some technical difficulties, so we're just going to finish our wonderful interview with painter Erin Hanson. Sometimes life happens and you just have to roll with it. So when we left off, we had started to talk about artists being very sensitive, or as I prefer to say, aware, and I was talking with Erin about her thoughts on that process, that artists sometimes can have a heightened awareness, be very emotional, and dealing with criticism. So Erin, do you just want to kind of comment on that?
Yes, there are always going to be people who will criticize your work, and I mean, believe me, I've been dealing with this for years, and it's really easy to get caught up in the negative things, and you just have to make a conscious effort to just concentrate on the people that love your work, because there will be people that will cry over your artwork and will just be so emotionally touched, and that's what I need to, what I focus on, but I have to make a conscious effort to focus on that. And sometimes just one little niggly comment after 2 days of nothing but positive comments will just get you down. You just have to be, that's just a ridiculous thing to have get you down. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing I love about your paintings for me is they evoke emotion. And so I'm curious, when you're painting, if it's an emotional process, and then it's kind of like your child or your pet, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't let that one go.
Yeah, yeah. I have heard artists talk about this, but well, for me, I feel like a painting belongs in a home where it's going to be loved and surrounded by beautiful furniture and matching couch pillows and a painted wall that goes with it. I feel like that's its natural environment, and sitting in a box in my gallery, or even hanging on a white wall in my gallery, that's not where it needs to be. It needs to be surrounded by its new family, and so that's the way I look at it. And the more I love a painting, it's not harder to let go of it. I just want to make sure it finds a good home and it's really loved by the people who buy it.
Now, what advice would you have for someone that's struggling as an artist? Maybe they're making that decision to do it as a business full time, or maybe they're in one of those creative downtimes, or they're just afraid to put themselves out. You gave us great advice earlier about, which I think is so true, putting themselves out. What would you say to them to encourage them?
I would just say start doing it. I mean, there's nothing like action to get you out of a funk, and there's nothing like just the doingness in the physical universe to get you out of any negative thoughts that you're having. So going out and physically doing an art festival and actually setting up your tent and hanging your paintings the way you want, showing your prints there and your print bins, and then physically talking to people. It's hard to do, believe me. I used to be a very shy person, and I didn't like talking to people I didn't know. I would just sit in my booth and be all reserved, but you get over that by just doing it. It's like any practice. You get good by practicing, and you get good at talking to people about your work by practicing it. So.
Now, I don't know how the process works to go to an artist festival. Do you have to apply? Is there someone that judges you before you can go, or is it pretty much open to anyone?
It depends on the festival. There's different gradients of them. Some of them are pretty open to all beginning artists. And then there's kind of tiers of art festivals, so they get harder and harder to get into. Some of the hardest festivals, there might be 10,000 applicants for 300 spaces. And so there is a jury that sits there, and sometimes it's a whole panel of professionals, and they go over everyone's application. But so it's kind of hard, because to apply to a festival, you need to have a photograph of your booth. It's called a booth shot. So you have to have done a festival before you can apply to do a festival. If you can't do a local show in your neighborhood and set up your booth and take a photo of it, then what I recommend is just setting it up in your front yard and mocking up your entire booth, getting a photograph of it, and then using that to apply to festivals.
Oh, excellent. So, we talked earlier about, I know sometimes artists are shy about using the internet, and we talked about how important having a website is, and you've mentioned artist festival, and then, creating a little thing in your neighborhood. Are there any other suggestions you have from people in ways that they can get their art out there?
Well, there's a lot of ways. There's also a lot of really fantastic books that have been written on ways to get your art out. I mean, there's art galleries that can also be very competitive and may tie your work up for an extended period of time when it might be easier to sell your work on your own. There's hanging your work in restaurants and libraries. There's always some kind of local art association in any major city, and they will have art shows and support the local artists. There's doing mailings, throwing your own show, right? Having a little solo show. And I've done that too. I just sent out invitations to everyone in the Glendale zip code and said, come to my show. And, some of them show up, and some of them are interested in buying art. Some of them aren't, but you just, you talk to the people that show up, and I have sold work through that way. And then online is great because there's what's called inbound marketing, which means that people that are already searching for your specific type of work are typing that into Google, and you come up. In other words, you're not spending any money on advertising. They're coming to you, right?
Right. No, that's a wonderful suggestion.
Exactly. So I do quite a bit of inbound marketing, and this is like blogging, having people link to your website, writing articles about different subjects and aspects of art, and having people search for that, and then having your website right there as a link. Using what's called meta tags in your website that specify your exact type of work. Like my meta tags are like modern impressionist landscape oil paintings, and then I'll use the actual places that I've been, like Eastern Sierras, backpacking trip, Zion National Park, and these are tags. So when people look for a Zion painting or a Paso Robles painting, I'm one of the first sites to come up. But this is after years and years of placing those tags out into the Google universe, and that it all pays off in the end, and you can build up a presence online.
I'd also suggest finding people like me. I mean, you were recommended by my dear friend Marcus, who was like, you've got to check this woman out. I really think her art speaks to me, but I think she's someone that you'd want to interview. And the other thing that popped in that my mother did, who is a recent artist, is she donated paintings to charities. And so when they were having auctions, and I'll never forget, she had to leave the room because she was with my father and my brother and sister-in-law, and she's like, oh, no one's going to bid on it. Her first painting went for $600. So I was like, you just need to relax and do that. But she feels good about that because she's able to donate to charities that she believes in. But that's just another way I think maybe getting started that might work.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, I wanted to bring up my friend Marcus, who recommended you. One of the things he appreciated, and I do as well, of your work is there's a sense of spirituality within it, and I would like to know your thoughts on that. You might not see that, but if that speaks to you in any way.
Yes, absolutely. There's I've heard people say that there's a godlight in some of my, and I really see spiritual presence in the landscapes that I go to. A lot of these places are, they're sacred places. Monument Valley, Canyon de Chelly, Canyonlands National Park, Zion. These are all very spiritual places and have been for 1,000 years. You know what I mean? And probably actually have physical spirits in them. You know what I mean? I've felt spiritual presence in these locations, and it really takes you to a different realm, so to speak.
Now, I'm all about taking action, and one question that I like to ask all my guests is, what one step would you say for people to reawaken their brilliance? So there's artists, if they just do one thing after they watch this interview or in the morning or before they go to bed, what advice would you have for them?
Well, being very practical, I would give very practical advice, and just to really dedicate one period of your week where you're going to create, whether you're an artist or a writer or a painter or a sculptor, and set yourself some very real target that you can achieve every week. For me, it's one painting a week. And then regardless of what's going on in your life or where you move to or who you're seeing or whatever, always make that your priority. And if you make it a priority and then really feel like you've achieved something when you make your target that you've set every week and really feel like you have accomplished something, doing a paint a week is something to really be proud of and to have, and then you start seeing this body of work accumulate, and you will see yourself improve. Believe me, you do 50 paintings in a year, you are going to be amazed when you compare the last painting that you did in December to the painting you did in January. You're going to see a huge improvement, and that is very satisfying.
Excellent. Now I want to remind listeners what happened. We started this interview an hour ago. We had some technical difficulties, so we're finishing it up now. But if you have questions for Erin, please ask. I want to make sure we get those in. But Erin, please tell people if you have any upcoming festivals you're going to, workshops, how they can get your paintings, your website, share all that good information.
Well, my website is erinhanson.com, and that has all my available work on there, as well as my upcoming shows. I'll be doing a festival in Beverly Hills this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. They're on Santa Monica and Beverly Boulevard. And I travel all over the U.S. going to shows, so I'm heading out to Arizona next weekend for a show for Flagstaff.
All right, excellent. So now I want to ask you, is there anything that I didn't ask you about your artistic style, the life of an artist that you'd like to share with everyone?
I feel like we covered it, Julie. It was a great interview. Thank you for having me on.
Excellent. And we'll get this melded together somehow. Sometimes, again, life happens. You have to roll with the flow. I'm really excited because Erin's our first official guest here on the Reawaken Your Brilliance Artist Series. So, again, for more information about Erin, please go to erinhanson.com. Please check out her work. It's truly amazing and inspiring. And if you like wonderful landscapes, then she's your gal. And I want to thank everyone for listening. Please connect with either of us on Google+, connect on my YouTube channel, Julie Caraccio, and we'll look forward to seeing you at one of my Google Hangouts shortly. All right, everyone, go out there and reawaken your brilliance. Thanks. Bye now.
Bye, Julie.